Praise the Lord, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning. The time is 8:45 here, Eastern Standard Time, here in Valdosta, Georgia. Um, I like to hope that everybody finds this video introduction at a comfort to your liking, and I pray that you're in the best spirits. I hope and pray that your spirit is receptive as we go into the book named How to Argueproof Your Relationships by Mr. Mark Webb, licensed marriage and family therapist. This book is a common sense and practical program for promoting peace and connection in your relationship. Now, it's been a while since we made the last video, so we want to go back and kind of touch up on some of the chapters that we talked about. So we started with the introduction. The introduction basically lined out, what your relationship is going through. And lined out the things that this book is going to cover, the things that the book is going to do for you. Okay. The introduction gave you a sense of understanding of who the author was, who Mr. Mark is, and it continued to give you a better insight in the techniques that are going to be used, as well as the signs and the identifications of what's going on in your relationship causing arguments. And I went over in this video that my relationship, I was about to say marriage, but we're not married, but our relationship is going through the same thing. And as of now, we're going through the same thing again. So you have to really stick with the techniques, and you got to understand that, even if you feel like you fail, you can always come back to this book for the techniques to get right back on track. And it may not even take a second. All it takes is that connection. That's all it takes. Let's go. Chapter 1 is how strong is your desire to fix your relationship. So that chapter that chapter dug us into how much are you willing to fix your relationship? How deep are you willing to fix your relationship? Are you really, really willing to fix your relationship? Or are you kind of passive? Or is it to a place where you could care less about fixing your relationship? That's where this chapter guided us to. And it let us know that it really doesn't take the two of you to be willing, but it takes one. It takes one of you to be really willing to fix the relationship. So, and I was at a point. This was like this morning, that I got to a place where I don't even want to fix the relationship. It's like just now she just sent me a long text about what to do, this and that, and I don't want to read it right now because I want to get back into. I don't want to say anything that I don't need to say. I don't want to push any subject that's going to push her farther away, or this and that, because right now she's having trust issues about things that I don't even understand. I don't know. But I'm telling her, look, I don't understand, and I'm giving her, my sight of what I'm seeing, as well as, what's going on. Insecurities and things like this, or controlling, or whatever it is. Along with the ministries that we have, I mean, it's tough, it's hard. It's hard, and you have, if you're not in control of your feelings and emotions, you're gonna be everywhere. You're gonna be all across the room, all around the walls. You're gonna be everywhere, and you're not gonna be in control of yourself. So how you feeling and your emotions, you're not gonna be in control. So it's my desire is to get into fixing the relationship, and I don't want to say that it's broken, but when it's on her end that she says it's broken, which is trust, you know it's hard. You gotta fix it. But the thing is here that how do you fix it? So that's why we're at. That's where we're in this book trying to understand and learn. Okay. So chapter 2 went about 10 things a woman can do to keep her man from losing his temper. And this outlined 10 steps or 10 things that women can do to keep their man from going off the handle and getting himself into a bind. And ladies, it's easy for you to get your man in a bind when if you're just put it like this: if you're constantly nagging him, it's easy for him to get into a bind. If he's one that doesn't like to argue, well, that's gonna get him into a bind, and then next thing you know, you're gonna be done pushed him into an argument. So now, not only have you pushed him into an argument, but now you have to deal with the consequence of having an argument on your hands that you created, and not having to deal with the resolution of the issue. So it gave 10. You can go back in the videos and go back and read this or listen to this chapter, as well as if you do find the book, to go back and read it. So chapter 3, 10 things men do to make matters worse. This chapter outlined the things that we as men do to make matters a whole lot worse. I mean, if your fiance or your wife or your girlfriend is already mad and arguing, upset, and nagging and things like this, I mean, it's gonna be there are 10 things that you can do to make matters worse. One of the major things that I found was to go to another woman for consolation. To go and hear a gentle voice from another woman, that itself is it's just wrong. It's just wrong. Number 4, chapter 4 came to I'm willing to change, but are they? So I'm willing to change, but I don't feel like they're necessarily ready to change. And I like to give you a personal insight, to my life, since this is a personal thing, and that we can deal with this together. Is that is that um, I'm willing to change, but my fiance, if she goes back to things of the past and keeps running back to things of the past, that's not changing us looking forward. Because if you're pointing backwards, but you're looking forward and not looking back, then everything that's coming your way should go to the direction in which you're pointing, which is to the back. It's like, look, go to the back. Go to the back of the bus. You ain't finna get nowhere in our future. You don't want anything of your past to come into your present relationship. And you should try your best to try to keep it that way. Because what you have now in the present is not what you had in the past. No matter how it looks, no matter how it feels, no matter how the feeling is or the emotion is or whatnot, you got to learn to control that. Control that and continue to look forward. You are in a relationship with a person that wants to be with you for the rest of your life. We pray. And there is no use in bringing up past things and placing them forward into your life forward. I mean, that's putting your relationship at jeopardy. That's literally killing your relationship. You're killing your relationship by doing such. So now number 5. We're at chapter 5, and it's back to the baseline. Chapter 5. Back to the baseline. So we're gonna we're going to go ahead and read in. Think I spent long enough getting into this chapter, and I hope everybody got a quick overview of the things that we went over. So, without ado, chapter 5, back to the baseline. Direction is needed when people are lost, like a GPS. If you don't know how to get there, you need direction. Okay? So direction is needed when people are lost. If you or your partner is upset, it is important that at least one of you stays focused. That's what I have in my current situation, is that I have to stay focused. I have to stay focused because no matter if she got off track or no matter if I got off track, one of us has to stay focused. So, my thing was this. My control this morning was to let her know, look, you won, you win. I gave my apology. I told you I'm sorry if I did anything or whatnot, because I really don't know what it was. It just really came out of nowhere, out of a time where we were having a great night, and ended in such a way. But I don't know what direction it went into. I'm thinking that we're in a stable direction, that this was nothing that's really going to get in the way of us. But she lost direction, and she let it get in the way of us, of who we were together as a couple, as one. So all these things came and they just bombarded the whole situation, escalated, and it just wasn't right. It wasn't right. So you got to stay focused. This principle is foundation for all of the upcoming concepts and strategies. So this principle is staying focused. Now listen to me when I say it. Stay focused. Stay focused. No matter how much she's going off, no matter how much he's going off, no matter how much what or the fault or whatever it is, stay focused. Stay focused. We're getting back to the baseline here, but you got to stay focused. It is basically the bottom line mission I'm striving to teach for you in this book. All relationships have a baseline. This is where couples feel close and connected. They look forward to seeing each other. Life is good and their chemistry is good. They have a strong sense of connection. They enjoy each other's company and can talk about anything. This is the mission that we're on. And I know you guys as well as I want to stay or get to that place. We want to get to that place where we do feel or have a strong sense of connection, where our connection is good, where our chemistry is better, where we enjoy each other's company and can talk about anything and everything. We are striving to return your relationship to the baseline where you first began, the moment you realized you were in love. Perhaps even grow your baseline to a level better than you have ever experienced. But for now, let's focus on returning you to as good as you have ever been. So this chapter is going to get us to that level where we're at a baseline, where we feel the chemistry, where we have a better sense of a stronger sense of a better connection, and to a place where we enjoy each other's company and can talk about anything to a better level than we have ever been to. Gradually, couples fall away from the baseline, especially if they do not understand this principle. Just as I outlined with you with, our situation or our conflict that we have had. When a couple has an argument or something hurtful has been said or done, they fall below the baseline. The goal is to get back to the baseline as quickly as possible. But suppose they get there, they get into another argument or something else hurtful is said or done again. Now the couple falls even further from the baseline. And that can happen. And that's a dark place. That's a very dark place. Because now you're in the abyss. Now you're in the unknown. So, how to get back there? How to get there? That's the question that you're asking. How do I get there? How do I retrieve myself and my partner back to the baseline? They have more ground to make up now. Now, it's a lot of ground that you're going to have to make up. If this process is falling before they can reestablish the baseline continues, they will grow tired and discouraged. And that happens. That happens. I grew that way this morning because no matter how much of what I was trying to stay focused, it seemed like it was not working. That it was steady falling below the baseline. And I grew tired and I grew discouraged and I grew to a place where I was like, what's the use? What's the use? What's the use? But when you have resources like that, you can always go to your resources. This is a natural process that all of us must learn to conquer. So now we're at this place where we're beginning to fall, but we got to conquer this. We got to stay focused. We got to stay focused and return back to the baseline. Falling from the baseline occurs in two manners. Two manners. Some couples are gradual in their decline. After each argument, they seem to fall just a little bit lower from the baseline. One or both notices this phenomenon, but the discouragement and frustration they are experiencing are not as apparent. That's the first one. So sometimes you could fall from the baseline, but it's just it's steady gradual. It's like a snowball. One thing to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next. One thing to the next, to the next. And then after every argument, they seem to fall just a little bit lower from the baseline. So you may argue this day and then come to a little peace, but then you're still not at that baseline because there's so much tension that's being brought into the relationship now, and the situation. I'm not going to say in the relationship. I'm just going to say in the situation, because we're going to save the relationship in the situation. So you fall a little bit lower from the baseline from each other. Um, one, either you or her or you may both notice this, but the discouragement and frustration that you are experiencing are not as apparent. So you may not see the frustration, you may not see the discouragement. And see, that's where we were. I didn't see the discouragement until the discouragement came. And when the discouragement came, I seen it. I saw it. Number two, other couples have extreme drops from the baseline. They fall very rapidly. Their arguments are more intense and hurtful. They bounce back rather quickly, but over time, their high does not come down as high as they used to. Over time, they demonstrate the same low level of connectedness as couples who gradually fall away from the baseline. So if it's in the rapid decline in the baseline, that's going to mean that, after your arguments, you're going to have this very, very, very quick drop. But the thing is, you're dropping so low and so fast that you're at a high. You're at a high, being that you're right. It's all what you say, nothing else, and this and that. You're not thinking about your partner's feelings. You're not thinking about your partner's emotions or whatnot or what this. You're not focused. You're not in balance. You're just on your high, and you're gonna ride that high until the high just starts to come on down. It may come down gradually, it may come down fast, depending on the time period of your high. But at the same time, while you're at that high, your partner's at that low. There's a very, very deep disconnect there. So that's where the rapid decline comes into place. But the thing is that now that this has happened, that your connection with one another is now low. It's low to a place where Let me see if I can describe a place that's that low. It's low to a place where you only feel comfortable with each other for certain reasons or certain times or certain occasions, or certain this or certain that. It's not because you have love for one another or that the one of the two of you are really wanting to be with each other, wanting to have the relationship, the situation fixed. It's that now you're to a place where it's forced. You have to force yourself to connect with that person. And it shouldn't have to be to a place where you got to force yourself. It should be to a place where the connection is going to be there. And see, that's what we're trying to get to. Where the connection is going to be there no matter what, this or that. Okay? This drop in emotional connection can be very disheartening to a couple. A couple begins to question if they will ever be okay again. They wonder if perhaps they made a mistake. And sometimes they may challenge the questions with the fact that they do love each other. And that is very sincere. Is that one of the two is going to question whether they made a mistake. If they made a mistake being with you, or if they made a mistake, with each other, being with each other. Or is it gonna be ever, or is the relationship ever gonna be okay again? The that's what happens in the drop, the emotional connection. It's because now you're starting to question, and it's like I try to tell my fiance is that I can't live in emotions. As me as a man, I can't live in emotions because my emotions will lead me this way and lead me that. I can understand your emotions, and I can try to better understand your emotions. As disheartening as they may come, sometimes the drop and the level of the connectedness. I hate to interrupt, but when I see that it's a drop there, look, we can get this right back on track, and we can start this thing right here and put all of this here behind. Let's soothe these emotions. Let's get this thing worked out, and let's get back on track. Let's get back focused. Because you could be thinking about better things than us having an argument or us seeing the negative areas of our relationship. You know, if we think about more of the positive things in our relationship, the more positive outcomes are going to come. If we think about more of the negative things of our relationship, more negative things are going to come. Arguments and such. Okay. At the same time, they challenge these questions with the fact that they do love each other. Now they will say that they love each other. We will say that. Just like, one of the messages that she sent me, I love you, but I don't know how to fix this. So we're right here. They love their home, their children, and their life, but they still feel trapped in a very discouraging process. It's when things get hard, and that's the place where we should work from, is where things get hard. Where things get hard are where we should stay focused, dig in, drive, and put those disheartening things, the discouraging things, set those aside and fill those things up with affirmations or determination or courage towards one another, to bring each other up. Compliments go a long ways with each other. Okay. I picture the baseline as a measure of 100%. No connection within the relationship is zero. When a couple falls to the range between 60% and 40% level of connectedness, they start to realize they should get help. But they do not call a therapist or their pastor. And that usually happens. I would say that our connectedness dropped from 100% down to a 65, no, down to a 70, down to a 65, down to a 50, to a 48. So that became very opaque, and it became very transparent, and it became dark, and she didn't want to hear what I was saying. She was listening, but she wasn't listening because I can sense these things. Now I can tell it was dark. It was dark where she was thinking. She was in a dark place, just in a real dark place. We went to the gas station, and she was in such a dark place that when she bent the corner to to go into the gas station, the lights from the gas station hurt her eyes because she was in such a dark place. And it's that's at a below, you know, a that's at a measure when it's a realization to get some kind of help. But they do not call a therapist or their pastor. And see, she offered to call the pastor, her uncle pastor or whatnot. And it's like I told her, I don't mind. I don't even mind. And whenever we can get the time, we're going to see Mark. We're going to see Dr. Mark, Mr. Mark Webb. We're going to see him. I'm going to make an appointment to go see him. And anybody else who is around in the Valdosta area, I would encourage you to go and see him. I think it's $175 for the first visit and $145 each other visit. But you think about it, the time that you spend, you're investing into your relationship. So you take time out to go and visit. It doesn't have to be every week. You don't have to go every week. I mean, you take time out, and out of the 45-minute session, get what you can get out of the session. Because he's gonna the same thing that he's teaching here, the same thing that he's gonna teach you only in person, at a more closer range. So get those things. They make excuses that they are busy and they never get to it. Most couples drift below the 40% before they seek the help they need. So anything before the 40%, that's it's getting severe. It's pretty severe, but it doesn't drop to zero. The goal is to get back to the baseline. With that reminder, I recommend that you suspend conversation about your issues for now. So, right now, don't talk about issues. Let's not talk about issues. Let's just kind of, stay away from that area for a while, because that's an area that is too well overheated, and it's a place that we should stay away from if we're going to see ourselves get back to the baseline of where we need to be. Let's stay away from it. Stop talking about all those subjects that tend to derail you into arguments. Couples who try to address their issues when they are far away from the baseline have little to no chance of making it. In order to avoid making things worse, I suggest you call a truce on talking about subjects that upset you. Just, and I try to do this with my fiance, is to call a truce. What I say is, you win. You win. I lose. I'll lose, being that I'll take the loss and you have the win over this argument. It's not saying that I'm leaving. Not saying that I'm going anywhere. It's just that you win. Because I don't want to have you to have to be in a conversation with me that we're never going to get resolved, because we're too far into too far below the baseline level. So look, you win, I lose. I apologize, and I'm sorry. I don't know if I did it or if I didn't do it. Look, I'm sorry. Case closed. Let's not talk about that. Let's talk about something else. And then if she goes further on and further on, then that's where, I myself have to just kind of, come to myself. Just come to myself and stay focused. Stay focused. Okay. Let's see here. Call a truce. Okay. If your partner is not willing, then you take the lead and refrain from bringing up those disagreements or touchy subjects, which is the same as I outlined to you. It will not do you any good to try and communicate when you are not connected as a couple. If you are at the bottom range of the baseline, the two of you are too emotionally raw, and your conversations will only last about a second before one of you is hurt, aggravated, or frustrated. And it takes only that quick second. That quick second before everything explodes. And I can tell you that's what we went through this morning. It only took 1 second for everything to explode. Returning to the baseline is what we strive to accomplish. Once a couple returns to the baseline, it is easier for them to talk because they are more connected. At the lower range of connectedness, they have little to no chance of reconnecting because they are too far apart to hear what the other has to say. From my experience, a lot of couples who return to the baseline no longer feel they need to address those earlier disagreements. So once you're at the baseline, you don't have to go back to those conversations that had you at a place where you didn't see eye to eye or that you were struggling. You don't have to worry about going back into those conversations. Once you get to the baseline, look, those things don't even matter anymore. Those things are old. Those things are in the past. We can forget that and let that go. Those things aren't serving us any purpose. We can keep on moving. Let's see where we are. The issue seems to disappear because they are so glad to have found each other again. They learn to find their emotional connectedness again, so issues were resolved. Once you find the emotional connectedness, it'll all be resolved. The issues all be resolved. All you gotta do is once you find the emotional connectedness. Now that is a note that we would take right there, is that they are so glad to have found each other again. Okay? They learn to find their emotional connectedness again. So issues were resolved. And if they do need to address an issue, they are able to do it more effectively because they are more connected. Exclamation point. He put a period, but I'm gonna put an exclamation point. In any relationship where you see arguments or couples who choose to isolate from one another, you will find this result as a lack of connection. When couples reconnect, they are stronger. They have learned to understand the process of staying connected versus trying to be right. If you're feeling that this lack of connection exists in your relationship, do not lose hope. I have seen some of the worst case scenarios and have watched people in those relationships learn to reconnect. The best part is that when they reconnect, their connection is often stronger and more easily restored than it was before. That's a good sign. Another topic that most people in a relationship don't understand is how important it is to stop arguing. How important it is to stop arguing. And that's where I tried to stay focused at this morning. And our elevation of disagreement is how to stop arguing by calling a truce. While doing marital therapy, I have seen that by not allowing couples to address their issues initially or to have arguments, their relationship is strengthened throughout the healing process. My focus is on skill development first. Skill development. Some therapists encourage couples to vent in their frustration and permit them to argue during the therapeutic vision, session after session. I tell you, those types of therapists only want your money. The couple leaves the office dismayed and mad as hell. They walk to the parking lot, either wish they had come to the appointment in separate cars or are relieved and delighted that they did. I do not see how couples are supposed to have a substantially different conversation in their therapist's presence than they have been having in their own home. Worse yet, they have no more skills when they leave the therapist's office than they had when they arrived. So nothing really changed. Merely moving the argument to a new location and adding an observer will not magically give squabbling spouses a better conversation. They need to learn skills. So just because you're going to a new place, and if you're arguing at home, or you're arguing over text message or whatnot, when you go into a therapist's office and you're able to argue, or you're allowed to argue there, then that's not really doing anything for you. I mean, the only thing you're doing is just putting yourself into a new setting. Only thing it is just like you're arguing in front of people. You're arguing in public, in front of other people. That's basically what that is. Whether you learn the needed skills in an office with a trained therapist or through reading about them in this book, the unexpected bonus is that this knowledge builds confidence and provides encouragement. When I finish a session with clients, I see they are better equipped to have productive conversations outside of the office, where they continue to discuss topics of disagreement in a healthy, positive manner. So let's look over this again. Whether you learn the needed skills in an office with a trained therapist or through reading about them in this book, the unexpected bonus is that this knowledge builds confidence and provides encouragement. When I finish a session with clients, I see they are better equipped to have productive conversations outside of the office, where they continue to discuss topics of disagreements in a healthier and positive manner. But let me make this clear. I do not encourage couples to address their sensitive subjects until they have first been taught the skills they need to make those conversations productive, not destructive. Understanding my approach becomes clearer as you go along in understanding how my process develops. A young man named Eric said it well once at a completion of our therapy. He said, "I didn't like your approach at first. I was angry with Stephanie, and I wanted to be mad. I wanted to vent my frustrations, and I wanted you to validate me by saying that she was a lousy wife. But now that we are better, I really appreciate your ways of doing things." This is a typical response that couples often admit later in the process. Most couples are emotionally exhausted by the time they arrive at my office anyway. They want relief, not anger. Isn't that what you want? Relief? You don't want anger, you want relief. Come on, lady, sir. Relief. 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 Remember, the goal is to get back to the baseline. Frustration is a key component that keeps couples from returning to the baseline. Frustration. Don't you get frustrated when you can't see eye to eye with your other, or it's not going in the direction that you want it to go. Pardon me. Or things are just not looking bright. It's frustrating. They have usually reached a state that I call battle weary. Where you're fighting and fighting and fussing and arguing, and you just become tired. You get tired. I felt that this morning. I felt that. Tired. I got tired. I'm tired. Look, I don't want to argue anymore. I'm tired. I thought we left this behind. Why are we having this argument? What purpose is it serving for us to have this argument? I understand what you are saying. I'm listening to you. Let's look at what we're doing together as a team. Together. Can't be a team with I. I is not a team. This is a term I formulated years ago to describe how couples start calling each other out on every little infraction. Whew. Just the word, those last those last 3 words that he just used. Every little infraction. Scorecards. Every little infraction. Those things hurt. For example, a husband may mutter something negative under his breath as his wife is walking out of the room. Or a wife may make a negative gesture or an ugly expression when her husband's back is turned. Have you did that? I know that in our relationship, we both have did that. So it's not one, it's both of us. It is real immature stuff that people do when they are emotionally exhausted and tired of constant arguing and bickering. If a couple keeps this up, their relationship will die. Just by keeping those things up. Steady doing those things even after you've reached the baseline and then fell back below the baseline and still doing these immature things. They may stay together, but it'll be a dead relationship. It'll be a dead relationship. We all know people like this, couples who have no real connection, but stay together in a state of perpetual unhappiness. They just stay together, even though they're unhappy. They have no connectedness. Experience has shown me that when one partner is frustrated with the other, they start raising the bar of expectation. Have you guys did that lately? I know it. We all do it. We all do that. When we're at this level of our argument, then we raise the bar out of nowhere that, okay, now you're arguing with me about this, so I'm going to raise the bar I'm going to be this high, and you got to get up here to talk to me. Or if you don't get up this high to talk to me, you just on your own. If they don't raise it on themselves, but rather on their partner. Oh, pardon me. Eventually, the bar is raised to a 100% degree of demanding expectation. So this is what I demand from you after this argument, or during this argument, for you to become connected back to me. This is what I demand. I demand you to come to this level, for you to be at this level, for you to be connected back to me. If the partner does anything less than 100% of what their partner expects, they are called out on it. They're called out on it. Everything becomes a big deal. Everything is big. Everything is a big deal. Not just little bitty things, but everything. 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 I do not know why this happens, because there are no partners who were ever 100% perfect to begin with. On their best day, they might have been at 95%. Now that they are having problems, they raise the bar only to be more frustrated and leave their partner feeling no sense of appreciation. How can your partner feel appreciated when the bar is so high and you're not even noticing your partner? You have to keep things in perspective. Develop a specific plan of strategies. Development of specific plans and strategies are required to break the cycle of declining connection in your relationship. If you are not careful, you can drive your relationship into a very unsatisfactory level of connection. Very unsatisfactory level, which is not going to be happy. That's just simple and plain. You're not going to be happy. The truth is, unless you develop a mindset of restraint, you will barely have a sense of connection at all. So if you cannot restrain your mind, your emotions, your feelings, then you won't sense the connection. You won't see when the connection is there. You won't feel when the connection is present, because your mind has not been restrained. You've not held back your mind from continuously going into the negative, dark areas, versus restraining it to see the light. You must learn to think without speaking. You do not need to comment on every little frustrating thing your partner does. This will require that you develop mental and emotional muscles that you have probably been weakened or perhaps never truly developed in the first place. Once you develop these mental and emotional muscles, all of these communication skills will be very easy to perform. Humor can be helpful when keeping things in a perspective as you develop your mental and emotional muscles. A former client, James, once stated to me that sometimes his wife Gloria had amnesia and would forget what a great guy he was. Other times he might think to himself she was having a three-headed PMS, in which she might say or do something unnecessary. He said that in those times he would feed her some red meat or chocolate and keep his hands away from the cage. I like the way James kept things in perspective, which is a very neat way to keep things in perspective. But you notice that he didn't go about bashing her. He didn't go about complaining about her or anything to a level less than their connectedness, or the way that he wanted to be connected. He kept his wits about him. He did not simply wish Gloria would be different. He reframed the matter in a way that was humorous and playful. He did not say to Gloria that she had amnesia or that she had three-headed PMS. These thoughts were his own efforts to maintain a positive perspective and not to take everything so personally. Predictable qualities exist in couples who argue and fall away from the baseline. Predictable qualities exist in couples who argue and fall away from the baseline. They seem to have three issues in common. Three. They, one, are usually are people who have an independent nature. They have had to either grow up early, or they have had a strong sense of self. Secondly, they tend to be hard-headed. I know I am, for one. They have a stubborn streak that makes it hard for them to accept a different way of doing things. Stuck in their way. They don't want to see any other kind of way. They're just stuck in their way. Stubborn. I say, I've been there too. Thirdly, they tend to be too smart for their own good. Now, we see a lot of people like that. They know so much that they're just too smart for their own self. They have everything all figured out, and their way is the best way. They have a hard time hearing a varying opinion or thought. And see, here's where my fiance has underlined it. I imagine that here she was trying to outline that to me, bashing to me that that's me, so which goes to this that we're talking about, predictable qualities. It's a predictable quality. Sensitive people also have difficulty addressing their issues because they are too emotionally raw. And see, that's the next sentence. Now, just as she underlined this about what it could be for me, the second sentence falls right back to her because she's a very emotional person. Now, I've said this in other videos. She's very emotional. Some people also have difficulty addressing their issues because they're too emotionally raw. They will never be able to effectively handle the problem between the two of you if you are too sensitive or battle weary. If you're too sensitive and battle weary. However, you can learn to talk openly with your partner again. You can learn to do this again. First, you must focus your efforts on returning your relationship to the baseline. Return to the baseline. Back to the baseline. I actually encourage you to set a new improved level for your baseline. A new and improved level. Not the same level, but a new level. And if you ever fall from the baseline, continue to set a new level, a new place, a new time, a new level for your baseline. Don't continue going back to the same baseline. Go to a new baseline. Get somewhere new and improved. A lot of couples need an upgrade to their baseline to accommodate children, job, educational challenges, and other stressful life events. And see, we have all of these things wound into one. It's that we have children, I have a job, and we both have educational challenges, as well as other stressful life events. Tasks, things that we need to do. So forth, bills, things like that, groceries, things like that. If people are problematic now, do not be discouraged. Do not be discouraged if things are problematic now. Just as our relationship is, it's problematic. If things are problematic now, don't be discouraged. So right now, I'm leaning and working towards not being discouraged. Even the couple whose relationship seems hopeless can do this. Common sense tells us that if we always do the same thing, we will get the same result. Common sense. Common sense. She underlined that. So that's out of common sense. Okay? We hear it enough. It's preached to us. It's forced down our throats. we know more, we do better. Well, we know better, we do better. That, or if we get the same, or we do the same thing, we get the same results. We're steady force fed that. My goal for you is to reverse the process. So now we're not looking at the common sense version of you do the same thing, you get the same results. We're looking at a reverse process of arguing with your spouse or partner and move the connectedness with them towards the direction of a deeper, stronger emotional bond. The direction of a deeper, stronger emotional bond. The rest of this book is going to teach you how to redirect your relationship to the best possible level of connectedness. I'm going to teach you the skills needed to prevent significant drops in your baseline. You will no longer have to struggle with the discouragement and the frustration of an unhappy relationship. You will learn how to talk about uncomfortable subjects in a positive fashion and gain the ability to discern which ones are not worth the trouble. So in the rest of this book, this is what he's teaching, is that you're going to be able to distinguish between the two, between what conversations are good and what conversations serve no purpose. Or is this conversation even worth the trouble? Is it worth the trouble of having this argument or this conversation? Now let's move on to how to push the reset button on your relationship. And that's chapter 5 of how to argue-proof your relationship. So I pray that everyone was receptive. I pray that everyone enjoyed this chapter and got a great sense of how to return to the baseline, as well as what steps it takes to get back to the baseline. I pray that everybody had a good understanding of what the characteristics are below the baseline, as well as what happens when below the baseline, as well as where to identify below the baseline. I pray that your relationships begin to become more impacted in returning back to the baseline and staying at a baseline and building from there instead of falling from there. Lord, I pray that you place into the relationship all the things that are needed, the necessary tools that are needed in the relationship to guide to back to a connectedness, emotionally stronger, deeply in tune with one another, to a place where they are more strengthened and they are more attached to one another to find their direction towards this goal. In Jesus' name I pray, amen. And I hope that you all enjoyed this chapter. And I hope that you all found in this chapter relevant information to where you are in your relationship. Or even if you're not there in your relationship, or you see these things in your relationship, how you can use this as a preventative method from coming to this place in your relationship. I pray that you continue to come together as one in a bond and that your relationships are together. And I wish nothing but the best for you two. And I wish more joy, more happiness, more life, more togetherness, more oneness in your relationships in Jesus' name. So on that note, we're going to end this video, and I will see you guys later.